Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're continuing with the next part of this epic time chamber series. My name is Ash. Please, for me, drop a like, join the Patreon, and subscribe to the page. Also, leave your comments down below. With that, let's begin.
Cross my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Gohan stood silently on the serene hillside in King Kai's secluded retreat, his gaze fixed on the infinite horizon of the other world. The setting sun painted the sky in a mesmerizing blend of orange and pink, while a gentle breeze rustled the grass at his feet. Yet amidst all this tranquility, Gohan felt a storm brewing within him, a restlessness that refused to fade. "It's been 2 months since my death," he murmured, his voice tinged with frustration. He clenched his fist, his nails digging into his palms as his thoughts turned bitter. "I defeated Cell. I defeated Kid Buu. Fuse that once pushed me to my limit fell with ease, yet here I am, stuck, feeling incomplete." The memory of his death gnawed at him like an insatiable predator. "How pathetic," he spat, the words drenched in self-loathing. "All that training, all that power, and I still fell. What good is my strength if I can't even protect myself when it matters?" His thoughts turned to his father, Goku, who had shattered every conceivable limit, mastering techniques like Ultra Instinct 3 and the fabled Omni form. Goku had ascended to heights that Gohan could scarcely imagine. And yet, that wasn't all. Goku had taken the Kaioken technique to its 100th level, pushing his body beyond mortal comprehension. Vegeta, Goku, even Broly, Gohan muttered, their names heavy on his tongue. "They've all surpassed me in every way. Have I truly reached my peak? Is this it for me?" His voice cracked, but he swallowed his despair, turning it into resolve. "No," he said, the word carrying the weight of a vow. His fist trembled with renewed determination. "I won't accept this. Even if it takes 1,000 years, I'll surpass them all. I'll surpass everyone." His thoughts drifted to the inactive Dragon Balls, their magic sealed for a millennium. "I can't rely on being revived," he reasoned, the cold truth settling over him. By the time the Dragon Balls could be used again, everyone he loved, his mother, Piccolo, even his daughter, Pan, would be gone. "No," he repeated, shaking his head. "When their time comes, I'll be here, waiting, and they'll see what I've become. Father will see." He inhaled deeply, calming the fire in his chest. "Father keeps pushing his limits," he mused aloud. "But have I really pushed mine?" "Lost in thought, are we?" A familiar voice broke through his reverie. Gohan turned to see King Kai approaching, adjusting his glasses with his usual jovial grin. "Hey, King Kai," Gohan said, offering a faint smile. "Yeah, I guess I am." King Kai's antennae twitched with curiosity. "What's on your mind?" "I can't shake this feeling," Gohan admitted, glancing at the horizon. "Even after everything, even defeating the god of destruction, I feel like something's missing." King Kai raised an eyebrow, muttering under his breath. Such a greedy boy. Not many can say they've defeated a god of destruction and lived, or, well, not lived, to tell the tale. And yet, here you are, still unsatisfied. If that's not Goku's son, I don't know what is. Gohan didn't seem to notice King Kai's muttering. Instead, he continued, "I was killed in a way that doesn't reflect what it means to be a Saiyan. Even now, in death, I want to push past my limits, to reach a level of power that I can finally be proud of, maybe even surpass my father in the process." King Kai let out a hearty chuckle, shaking his head. "That's quite the goal you've set for yourself, Gohan. Frankly, it might be impossible. Do you know what your father has become?" He gestured animatedly. "I wasn't just cooking and reading adult magazines up here. You know, I've been watching the chaos you Saiyans stir up in the universe. Your father's power is, well, let's just say it's beyond mortal comprehension." Gohan's brows furrowed. "I've seen some of what he's accomplished, but..." King Kai cut him off, raising a finger. "Let me put it this way. The Omni form isn't just another level of strength. It's the final destination for all deities, gods of destruction, even angels. Achieving it means entering the realm of the Celestials, the domain of Zeno himself." "Zeno," Gohan's voice trailed off, the name carrying an almost sacred weight. "Exactly," King Kai said, nodding. "Yet somehow, your father and Vegeta managed to reach this level. Mortals, no less. True, they're not on Zeno's level. No Omni is equal in strength, but they've stepped into a realm few can even dream of. Surpassing that, well, that means you're aiming to find what lies beyond Omni, if such a thing even exists." Gohan's eyes narrowed, his resolve hardening. "Then that's what I'll do." He turned back to the horizon, his mind racing with possibilities. King Kai sighed, his usual humor replaced by a rare solemnity. Gohan, he said carefully, you're chasing the impossible. But then again, if anyone can make the impossible possible, it's a Saiyan. King Kai adjusted his glasses, watching Gohan with a thoughtful expression. Well, I'm not saying surpassing an Omni is a realistic goal, but surpassing your father might be. At least by a sliver. As I mentioned earlier, not all Omni titles are created equal in strength. There's always a gap, and sometimes gaps can be bridged. Gohan's face lit up with determination. So you think there's a chance? King Kai chuckled, his antennae twitching. Let's not get carried away. But yes, there's hope. Take Broly, for instance, that brute of a Saiyan. Sometimes I wonder where his boundless power comes from. His energy doesn't follow the rules of divine beings. His transformations are entirely unique to him. In all my eons of watching the universe, I've never seen anything like them. He paused, his tone growing more serious. That alone proves there's a vast, unknown source of power out there, something we don't understand. Maybe Broly draws from it instinctively, and maybe, just maybe, you can find it too. Gohan's fists clenched. If Broly can do it, I can. Do you think you could help me? King Kai grinned wide. Help you? I can try. After all, you're already dead? What's the worst that could happen? I won't have to worry about breaking your body. Gohan smirked. That's comforting. King Kai's tone shifted to one of wisdom. But let me be clear. True strength isn't just about raw power. It's about understanding and control. When you truly understand something, whether it's a technique, your limits, or even yourself, you can reconstruct it. That's the key to surpassing anything. Got it? I understand. Gohan replied firmly. I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Later that evening, the Grand Kai hosted a lavish feast in Gohan's honor. The Grand Kai's estate buzzed with excitement, the grand hall filled with warriors from across the other world. Tables groaned under the weight of platters piled high with food, exotic fruits, roasted meats, and desserts that sparkled like stars. Music filled the air, and laughter echoed off the high ceilings. Gohan sat at the head of the table, honored but distracted. The warriors around him swapped stories of their battles, their voices brimming with pride and camaraderie. But Gohan's mind was elsewhere. He smiled politely and raised his glass when prompted, but he couldn't shake the words King Kai had spoken. Midway through the festivities, Gohan quietly excused himself. I'll be back, he said, slipping away from the crowded hall. No one noticed as he disappeared into the Grand Kai's sprawling estate. The quiet corridors were a stark contrast to the lively celebration. Gohan wandered aimlessly, his footsteps echoing softly. His eyes scanned the rows of artifacts, scrolls, and ancient relics that lined the walls. The place felt like a treasure trove of forgotten wisdom, a sanctuary for those seeking enlightenment. Otherworld is more than just a place for the dead, Gohan whispered to himself. It's a realm of endless knowledge, a place where people can perfect their techniques for eternity. If I'm going to push my limits, the answers might be right here. He paused before a towering shelf filled with scrolls, their bindings faded and cracked with age. One scroll, tucked away on a high shelf, caught his eye. Its edges were frayed, and the faint glow of its faded gold lettering piqued his curiosity. What's this? Gohan murmured. Stretching upward, he grabbed the scroll and brought it down carefully. The 101 levels of Kaioken and the origins of Ki, he read aloud, his brow furrowing in interest. This could be something. He found a quiet corner and sat cross-legged on the polished floor. Carefully, he unrolled the scroll, the parchment crackling faintly in the silence. The first few pages detailed the history of Ki manipulation, describing how mortals first learned to harness their energy. It was fascinating. But as Gohan turned the pages, something unusual caught his attention. One page looked far older than the rest. The parchment was darker, its edges rough, and it was inscribed with strange glowing symbols, unlike any language Gohan recognized. It almost seemed alive, as though the symbols pulsed faintly with energy. What is this? Gohan whispered, leaning closer. The symbols seemed to shift under his gaze, rearranging themselves into a form he could understand. He blinked, startled, but before he could question it, the words revealed themselves. Gohan's fingers trembled slightly as he traced the words on the aged scroll. The concept of the 101 levels of Kaioken intrigued him beyond measure. It wasn't just a technique, something you activated for a burst of power. It was a state of existence, a transformation of self. It is said that one who achieves this form can tap into powers beyond mortal limits, Gohan read aloud, his voice tinged with awe. His eyes scanned further down the page, stopping at a chilling sentence. But the 101st level remains a mystery, its secrets lost to time. At the bottom of the page, a handwritten note caught his attention, a training method used by Zeno's father to prepare the new king of everything. Gohan's heart skipped a beat. Zeno's father? He muttered under his breath, disbelief spreading across his face. I didn't even know Zeno had a father. I thought Zeno was the beginning, the king of everything, the one who created all. He sat back on his heels, his mind racing. This explains so much, he whispered to himself, his voice growing louder as his thoughts connected. This explains why Zeno acts so childlike. Because he is a child. If he has a father, then that means... His musings were cut short by the sound of footsteps echoing down the hall. Gohan's head snapped up, and he quickly rolled the scroll shut, holding it tightly behind his back. A familiar voice called out, "There you are, Gohan!" King Kai exclaimed as he entered the room, adjusting his glasses. "I was wondering where you'd wandered off to. The feast isn't much fun without the guest of honor." "Sorry," Gohan replied, forcing a sheepish grin. "I got sidetracked." King Kai raised an eyebrow, noticing Gohan's awkward stance and the scroll partially hidden behind him. "What have you got there?" he asked, his tone tinged with suspicion. For a moment, Gohan hesitated. He glanced at the scroll in his hands, then at King Kai's curious expression. With a sigh, he revealed it. "I found this," he admitted. "It talks about the 101 levels of Kaioken." King Kai's jovial expression vanished in an instant. His antennae twitched, and his eyes narrowed as he took the scroll from Gohan. He unrolled it carefully, his gaze scanning the ancient text. Concern crept across his face as he read. "Where did you find this?" he asked, his voice quiet but firm. "On one of the shelves here," Gohan replied, gesturing to the rows of scrolls and artifacts. "What does it mean? Do you know anything about it?" King Kai shook his head slowly, his usual lighthearted demeanor replaced with a rare gravity. "This is very old and very dangerous. The Kaioken you know is already a high-risk technique. Pushing it further, let alone through 101 levels, could be catastrophic." Gohan's brows furrowed in determination. "But what if I could master it?" he pressed, his voice firm. "If this is something that could make me stronger, strong enough to make a real difference, shouldn't I try?" King Kai let out a long, exasperated sigh. "A real difference in what, Gohan? You're dead, remember? It's not like you have a universe to save right now. That doesn't mean I should stop growing," Gohan argued. "Even in death, I can still push my limits. I have to. I've come too far to just settle." King Kai shook his head, muttering under his breath. "You Saiyans, always looking for the next mountain to climb. Listen to me, Gohan. Even the gods have limits. Mortals were never meant to wield this kind of power. It will destroy you." Gohan crossed his arms, his gaze unwavering. "I'm already dead," he countered. "What do I have to lose?" King Kai's eyes widened in disbelief. "Don't joke about that," he snapped, his voice rising. "Just because you're in the other world doesn't mean you're invincible. There are consequences for pushing too far, even here." Gohan held King Kai's gaze, his voice calm but resolute. "I understand the risks, but I need to try. I can't ignore this. Please, help me understand." For a moment, the room fell silent. King Kai stared at Gohan, his face a mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. Finally, he let out a groan and rubbed his temples. "Fine," King Kai relented, "but we proceed with extreme caution. Do you hear me?" Gohan nodded, his expression serious. "I hear you." As King Kai rolled the scroll back up, he thought to himself, what's the harm? It's not like he'll ever get past the 30th level, let alone the 101st. This will keep him busy, and eventually he'll see it's hopeless. That should get this obsession out of his system. With a sigh, King Kai tucked the scroll under his arm. "All right, Gohan, let's see if you have what it takes." Over the next few days, King Kai immersed himself in studying the ancient scroll, his expression shifting between fascination and deep concentration. Occasionally, he muttered to himself, scribbling notes as he pieced together the advanced concepts buried within the text. Gohan, eager to begin, waited patiently, though his anticipation was palpable. Finally, King Kai approached Gohan with a determined look. "All right, Gohan, listen closely. The basics of Kaioken are the same as what I taught your father back on my planet. But to go beyond that, especially to reach the higher levels described in this scroll, you'll need to master Ki on an entirely new level." Gohan nodded attentively. "I'm ready. Tell me what I need to do." King Kai adjusted his glasses and began his explanation. Ki isn't just energy that fuels your attacks or strengthens your body. It's something more fundamental, more elemental. According to the scroll, it exists beyond life itself. It's a force that connects everything, the living, the non-living, even time and space. To control it at the level this technique demands, you'll need to understand it deeply, as if it were a part of you. Gohan's expression hardened with resolve. "I'd like to try." King Kai gave a small, approving nod. "Good. Let's start with the foundation." The training began immediately. King Kai laid out the basics, revisiting the fundamentals of the Kaioken technique to ensure Gohan had a strong base. They started with holding Kaioken at modest levels, ×3, then ×8. For days, Gohan focused entirely on strengthening his control in his base form, working tirelessly to build his endurance and precision. "Feel the flow of your ki," King Kai instructed as Gohan stood in a clearing, his aura blazing red with the power of Kaioken. "Don't force it. Let it move with you, through you. Remember, it's not a tool to control, it's a part of you." Gohan closed his eyes, his body trembling slightly from the strain. His breathing was steady and his focus unwavering. The crimson aura around him pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were alive. Slowly, the tension in his muscles eased as he synchronized with his ki. "Good, Gohan!" King Kai cheered, clapping his hands. "You're starting to get the hang of it." Though exhausted, Gohan managed a small smile. "I think I'm starting to understand." As days turned into weeks, Gohan's progress became undeniable. He began experimenting with merging the power of his Super Saiyan forms into his base state, attempting to hold that immense energy without transforming. It was grueling work, but Gohan's determination never wavered. "You're doing something incredible," King Kai remarked one evening as Gohan sat under a tree, sweat dripping from his brow. "I've never seen anyone combine energies like this, not even your father." Gohan leaned back against the tree, his breathing heavy but steady. "Thanks, King Kai, but I still have a long way to go. If I want to reach the 101st level, I'll need a lot more power." One quiet afternoon, as the two rested in the shade, Gohan broke the silence with a thoughtful question. "King Kai, do you think it's possible to reach the 101st level?" King Kai stroked his chin, his antennae twitching slightly. "Honestly, I don't know, Gohan. According to the scroll, it's never been done. Not by mortals, gods, or even angels. If anyone has reached it, it's a mystery lost to time." Gohan's expression shifted as a memory surfaced. "But my father told me he reached Kaioken ×100. That's what drew my attention to this scroll in the first place." King Kai froze mid-thought, turning to Gohan with wide eyes. "Goku reached what?" "That's right," Gohan said, nodding. "Father said the highest level of Kaioken he could achieve was ×100. But when I read this scroll, it didn't seem to match his training at all. The Kaioken described here is completely different. Father's version multiplies his power and physical abilities. But this," he tapped the scroll beside him, "this is about more than just strength. It's about understanding ki itself, controlling it on a level I don't think even father has attempted." King Kai's mouth fell open slightly, his shock evident. He reached for his drink, took a sip, and promptly spat it out. "What did you just say?" he exclaimed, nearly choking on his words. "Goku increased the Kaioken from ×20 to 100. Gohan nodded, unfazed by King Kai's outburst. "That's what he told me. But now I'm wondering, was that even the true Kaioken? Or just a variation of it?" King Kai sat back, muttering to himself in disbelief. "Goku, you're truly incredible." King Kai's words hung in the air like a solemn warning, but Gohan's determination only deepened. The thought of mastering the same knowledge used to train Zeno himself was a challenge he couldn't turn away from. The idea burned within him, a chance not just to grow stronger, but to truly understand the core of ki and push beyond the limits that even his father had reached. "You're learning from a text meant for the king of everything," King Kai continued, pacing as he spoke. "This isn't just some advanced training manual, it's the complete knowledge of Kaioken, something even I wasn't fully aware of when I taught your father." Zeno mastered every form of energy manipulation because, as the king of everything, he needed to know every fundamental element of existence, including Kaioken. King Kai paused, scratching his head. "Honestly, I'm shocked the scroll still exists. It's ancient and should have been destroyed long ago. What's even stranger is that it ended up here, in a place like this." Gohan listened intently, absorbing every word. After a moment of silence, he spoke, his tone thoughtful. "What if I tried removing all the ki from my body?" The suggestion made King Kai freeze, his antennae twitching as his eyes went wide. "What? That's insane! Without ki, your body would, well, it wouldn't survive. You'd collapse, or worse." "But the scroll mentioned something about reaching a pure state," Gohan pressed. "It said that true mastery of Kaioken involves understanding ki not as a tool, but as a natural force. To do that, I need to experience what it means to have no ki at all. If I succeed, I might finally understand how ki works on the most fundamental level. King Kai shook his head furiously. Absolutely not. That's a recipe for obliteration. I can't let you do something so reckless. There has to be another way. Gohan's expression remained calm, but his eyes gleamed with unshakable resolve. I understand your concern, King Kai, but this is something I have to try. If I want to push beyond my limits, I need to take risks. King Kai let out a long, weary sigh, rubbing his temples. You're just like your father, stubborn as a mule. A small smile tugged at the corner of Gohan's lips. I'll take that as a compliment. King Kai waved a hand dismissively, his voice exasperated. Yeah, whatever. All right, but we're doing this my way. No crazy experiments, at least not yet. We start with the basics and move carefully. Got it? Gohan nodded, his smile widening. Agreed. The next morning, Gohan stood in an open field on King Kai's small, gravity-dense planet. The serene blue sky and soft clouds above belied the intense challenge that awaited him. The increased gravity pressed down on him, making even standing still feel like a workout. King Kai stood a few paces away, his arms crossed as he watched Gohan prepare. All right, here's how we're starting. I want you to activate your Kaioken in base form and hold it for as long as you can. No transformations yet, just focus on control and endurance. Gohan took a deep breath, closing his eyes as he concentrated. He let his awareness sink inward, feeling the energy within him stir. Slowly, he began to channel it, the familiar warmth of ki spreading through his body. With a sharp exhale, he shouted, Kaioken, times 10! A brilliant red aura burst around him, flickering like flames and casting long shadows across the field. The ground beneath Gohan's feet cracked and buckled under the pressure of his energy. The strain hit him immediately. His muscles tensed, and the weight of the Kaioken pressed down on him like a tidal wave. Good, King Kai called out, his voice steady but encouraging. Now hold it. Focus on your breathing. Let the ki flow naturally. Gohan gritted his teeth, his breaths coming in controlled bursts as he fought to maintain the technique. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest, but he kept his focus sharp, refusing to waver. Seconds stretched into what felt like eternity as Gohan pushed his limit. His red Kaioken aura flickered and surged, a testament to his sheer willpower. Sweat poured from his forehead, soaking the ground beneath him. His breaths came in short, labored gasps, each one harder than the last. Just a little longer, he muttered, his voice strained yet determined. As the 5-minute mark approached, the crimson energy around him began to waver, the strain on his body becoming unbearable. His muscles burned like fire, and his vision blurred. I can't hold it anymore, he gasped, his knees beginning to buckle. All right, release it, King Kai called out urgently. With a loud exhale, Gohan let the energy dissipate, collapsing onto one knee. His chest heaved as he struggled to catch his breath, his body trembling from the effort. Not bad for your first day, King Kai said, handing Gohan a towel. His tone was encouraging but firm. But don't get ahead of yourself. We've got a long road ahead. The following days were grueling. Gohan repeated the same exercise, gradually increasing the Kaioken multiplier. Each session pushed his body further than the last, testing the limits of his endurance. Kaioken times 20! He yelled one morning, his aura roaring like a wildfire around him. Kaioken times 30, he bellowed in another session, the strain threatening to tear him apart. Every increase brought new challenges. His muscles screamed in agony, and his bones felt as though they might shatter under the immense pressure. The high gravity of King Kai's planet only compounded the difficulty, each movement a Herculean task. One particularly brutal afternoon, Gohan collapsed onto the grass, his chest rising and falling as he stared up at the endless blue sky. Is this really the right path? He murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. King Kai sat down beside him, his tone uncharacteristically soft. Having doubts, Gohan shook his head slightly, not taking his eyes off the sky. No, not doubts, just reflecting. It's harder than I thought it would be. King Kai chuckled lightly. Great power comes with great effort, Gohan. But even the greatest effort means nothing if you push too hard and end up breaking yourself. Listen to your body. I know, Gohan replied, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. But I can't stop now. As months turned into a year, Gohan's training evolved. He began incorporating his various transformations into his exercises, merging their immense power with the Kaioken. In one intense session, he powered up to his ultimate form, his aura glowing with a radiant white light that seemed to illuminate the entire field. "Now, Kaioken, times 20, he shouted, his voice echoing across the planet. The familiar red aura of the Kaioken flared to life, overlaying his ultimate form. The two energies swirled violently around him, the sheer intensity of their collision shaking the ground beneath his feet. "Focus, Gohan!" King Kai yelled over the deafening roar of energy. "Don't let it overwhelm you. Keep it under control." I'm trying!" Gohan grunted, his entire body draining against the chaotic power. The ground quaked violently, and bolts of energy shot out in all directions, scorching the surrounding landscape. Suddenly, the two auras clashed too violently to contain. With a thunderous explosion, the energy burst outward, sending Gohan flying backward. He hit the ground hard, sliding several feet before coming to a stop. "Gohan!" King Kai shouted, rushing over to him. "Are you all right?" Gohan groaned as he sat up, rubbing the back of his head. "I'm okay," he muttered, though his voice was tinged with frustration. "Guess that didn't work." King Kai knelt beside him, his tone gentle but firm. "You're trying to merge two immense powers. It's not going to happen overnight. Setbacks like this are natural." Gohan clenched his fist, his resolve unwavering despite the setback. "I won't give up." The training continued relentlessly. Every session left Gohan battered and bruised, but his determination never wavered. Bruises and scratches became a familiar part of his daily life, yet he pushed through each challenge with unshakable focus. During one meditation session, Gohan tried something new. Sitting cross-legged on the grass, he focused his ki inward, directing it toward his injuries. He visualized the energy flowing to his damaged cells, knitting them back together. King Kai watched from a distance, his expression one of awe. "Remarkable," he said softly. "Your control over ki is improving faster than I expected." Gohan opened his eyes, offering a small, tired smile. "It's thanks to your guidance, King Kai." The older deity chuckled. "Don't give me too much credit. That determination of yours is doing most of the work." One starry evening, Gohan sat cross-legged under the vast night sky. The ancient Kaioken scroll spread out before him. He traced the faded text with his fingers, his mind racing with possibilities. "According to this," he murmured to himself, "I need to maintain the power of my transformations without actually transforming. That's the key." Closing his eyes, he delved deep into his consciousness. He visualized the raw power of his beast form, the primal, untamed energy that surged through him. He recalled the divine strength of Super Saiyan God and the refined precision of Super Saiyan Blue. "Become the power," he whispered, his voice calm but firm. "Don't just wield it, be it." Gohan stood slowly, his breathing steady, but his mind racing with determination. His eyes remained closed, shutting out all distractions as he focused on drawing the power of his transformations into his base state. A faint glow began to envelop his body, shifting subtly between colors, gold, red, and a glimmering white, as different energies surfaced and interwove. "That's it," he whispered to himself. "Hold on to it, feel it flow." The air around him thickened as his energy spiked dramatically. The ground beneath his feet cracked and splintered, sending shockwaves across King Kai's small planet. A whirlwind of energy spiraled around Gohan, lifting loose rocks and debris into the air as if caught in a storm. Inside, King Kai nearly dropped his lunch plate as he felt the sudden surge of power. His antennae twitched furiously. "What in the world?" he muttered before rushing outside, his stubby legs moving as fast as they could carry him. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. Gohan stood at the center of the chaos, his energy pulsating wildly. The faint glow around him had become a blazing storm of light, a cacophony of power, almost too intense to look at. "Gohan!" King Kai shouted over the roar of energy. "What's happening?" Gohan's eyes snapped open, glowing with a fierce, otherworldly intensity. He clenched his fists as he struggled to stay grounded amidst the surging power. "I can feel it, King Kai. All the power, without the transformations. I've almost got it." But the energy around him grew unstable, flickering erratically, like a raging fire about to explode. Suddenly, pain ripped through Gohan's body, sharp and unrelenting, like lightning coursing through his veins. "Ah!" Gohan screamed, clutching his chest as his muscles spasmed uncontrollably. King Kai's expression turned to panic. "Release it!" he yelled desperately. "Let go before it tears you apart." I can't," Gohan gasped, his voice trembling under the strain. His entire body felt like it was on the verge of collapse. Thinking fast, King Kai dashed forward, and placed a hand firmly on Gohan's back. He closed his eyes, channeling a steady stream of calming ki into the young Saiyan's turbulent energy. Focus on my energy, Gohan. Match its rhythm. Breathe. Gohan winced, but followed the guidance. His breaths grew steadier, and the chaotic energy began to subside, dissipating like a receding tide. Finally, the light faded, and Gohan collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. That was too close, King Kai muttered, wiping the sweat from his brow. Gohan looked up weakly, his face pale but resolute. I almost had it. King Kai frowned and crossed his arms. You almost obliterated yourself. That's what you almost did. Your mortal body isn't meant to contain that much power all at once. Sitting up slowly, Gohan brushed some dirt off his knee. But if I can master this, I won't need to rely on transformations. I could be stronger, faster, better. At what cost? King Kai asked pointedly. You nearly tore yourself apart just now. Power isn't worth much if it leaves you in pieces. Gohan glanced down, his face conflicted. I want to make a difference. I don't want to be a bystander when it matters most. King Kai's expression softened. I know, Gohan, I know. But even the greatest fighters have limits. Even your father understood that. Gohan took a deep breath, considering King Kai's words. Maybe you're right, he said finally. Maybe I need to take a different approach. The next day, King Kai presented a new training plan. Instead of trying to hold all the energy at once, Gohan would focus on integrating one transformation at a time into his base form. By layering the process gradually, they hoped to build a stronger foundation. All right, King Kai began, gesturing to the open field. Start with something simple. Power up to Super Saiyan. Then, revert to base while keeping the power level steady. No sudden spikes. Gohan nodded, his expression calm and focused. With a sharp inhale, he summoned the golden energy of a Super Saiyan. His hair turned bright blonde as his aura flared to life, shining like sunlight. Good, King Kai said. Now, slowly return to base form, but keep the energy level constant. Let the power linger, even after the transformation fades. Gohan furrowed his brow in concentration. Gradually, his hair darkened back to black, but the golden aura remained, pulsing faintly around him. That's it! King Kai cheered, his voice filled with excitement. Sweat began to bead on Gohan's brow as he struggled to maintain the delicate balance. The effort was immense, like holding a glass of water perfectly still while standing on a moving platform. Hold it for 10 more seconds, King Kai encouraged, his eyes fixed on Gohan. At the 9th second, the golden aura flickered and faded completely. Gohan exhaled sharply, his body slumping slightly from the strain. Not bad for a first attempt, King Kai said with a proud smile. Over the next several days, Gohan repeated the process, each session lasting longer than the last. He pushed himself to maintain the energy longer, learning to control its flow without relying on the transformation itself. His endurance and precision grew stronger with every attempt. Once he felt confident with Super Saiyan, they moved on to more advanced forms. All right, King Kai instructed. Let's try Super Saiyan God next. You've got a handle on the basics. This will be a real test of your focus. Gohan nodded, closing his eyes. He tapped into the divine energy of Super Saiyan God, and a crimson aura enveloped him, swirling gracefully around his body. His eyes glowed with a fiery intensity. Now, King Kai said carefully, revert to base, but don't let the energy vanish. Gohan took a deep breath and focused intently. Slowly, his appearance shifted back to normal, but the crimson energy remained, crackling faintly around him like embers. Excellent work, King Kai exclaimed, clapping his hands. As before, the energy began to destabilize after a short time. Gohan's aura wavered, threatening to spiral out of control. Maintain your focus, King Kai called out. Steady breaths, Gohan, steady. Taking his mentor's advice, Gohan steadied his breathing. Gradually, the energy stabilized, returning to a calm, controlled state. Gohan's face lit up with a triumphant grin. Yes! He exclaimed, his voice filled with pride. They pressed forward, moving to tackle Super Saiyan Blue next. The transformation's tranquil, divine energy was deceptively volatile, and containing its immense power within his base form proved to be Gohan's greatest challenge yet. The first attempts were grueling. Gohan's aura would flicker, the radiant blue energy swirling unevenly around him. Each time, he strained to stabilize it, sweat pouring down his face as he fought to hold the form. During one attempt, a sharp pain suddenly shot through his chest, causing his concentration to falter. His energy spiked uncontrollably, lightning crackling violently around him. Not again, he muttered, his voice tight with frustration. His hands trembled as he struggled to regain control, but the power surged wildly. King Kai! Gohan shouted, panic creeping into his voice. It's happening! King Kai, sensing the danger, rushed toward him. Gohan, release it now before King Kai could finish. The unstable energy erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave tore through the field, sending both Gohan and King Kai flying through the air. The ground quaked from the impact, and a thick cloud of dust rose into the air. When the dust settled, Gohan lay sprawled on the ground, his body battered and barely conscious. King Kai crawled toward him, coughing and waving away the lingering debris. "Gohan!" King Kai shouted, his voice laced with worry. He reached Gohan's side and shook him gently. "Speak to me, Gohan. Are you okay?" Gohan's eyes fluttered open, his vision hazy. Did I do it?" he asked weakly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. King Kai let out a breathless laugh, half in relief. "Well, you survived, if that's what you mean." Gohan chuckled softly, though it quickly turned into a wince. "I guess that's progress," he said, his tone light despite his exhaustion. King Kai helped him sit up, his expression turning serious. "You're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, Gohan. But if you're not careful, you'll tear yourself apart before you reach your goal." Gohan nodded, brushing dirt off his face. "I know. I'll be more careful, I promise. But I can't stop now." Over the next few weeks, Gohan's progress was remarkable. Each session brought him closer to mastery. He worked tirelessly to refine his control, holding the power of Super Saiyan Blue in his base form for longer periods. What once overwhelmed him now felt manageable, even natural. During one particularly intense session, Gohan maintained the energy for several minutes without any adverse effect. The serene blue aura danced around him, steady and calm, a reflection of his growing mastery. "Your control is improving," King Kai remarked, a note of pride in his voice. Gohan nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. "Thanks, but I still feel like something's missing." King Kai tilted his head, curious. "What do you mean?" "It's hard to explain," Gohan admitted. "I can feel the power, and I can hold it now, but it doesn't feel complete, like I'm only scratching the surface of what it could be." King Kai stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Perhaps it's not just about power, Gohan. Maybe you need to understand the essence of your transformations." Gohan furrowed his brow. "The essence?" King Kai smiled faintly. "Each of your forms represents a different aspect of who you are. Your Super Saiyan forms tap into your Saiyan heritage, the warrior instinct. The God forms connect you to divine energy, a power that transcends mortal limits. Maybe integrating them isn't just about strength, it's about embracing every part of yourself." Gohan considered his mentor's words carefully. "So what you're saying is I need to find balance, not just in my energy, but in who I am." "Exactly," King Kai said with a nod. "Harmony within yourself will lead to harmony in your energy." That evening, Gohan sat cross-legged under the vast starlit sky. The world around him was silent, save for the faint rustling of the wind. He closed his eyes and delved deep into his thoughts, reflecting on his journey. Memories flooded his mind, his greatest battles, his moments of triumph and failure, the people he loved and the sacrifices he'd made. "I am a Saiyan," he thought, his inner voice steady and resolute. "But I'm also human, a warrior and a scholar, strength and wisdom, two sides of the same coin." As he meditated, a warmth spread through his body. It wasn't the fiery surge of power he was used to. It was calm, steady, an almost comforting sensation. He felt his energies blending together, no longer clashing, but moving in harmony. When he opened his eyes, he found himself surrounded by a gentle aura. It wasn't wild or overwhelming like before. Instead, it radiated a quiet strength, a reflection of the balance he'd achieved. "King Kai," Gohan called softly, his voice calm yet firm. King Kai approached, his antennae twitching as he sensed the shift in Gohan's energy. His eyes widened, and a proud smile spread across his face. "Gohan, you've done it." "I think I've found the balance," Gohan said, standing slowly. There was a new confidence in his voice, one that didn't come from power alone. King Kai nodded, his pride evident. "This is a significant step forward, Gohan. You're beginning to understand what it means to truly master your energy." Gohan stretched his arms, feeling lighter, yet more powerful than ever before. "I get it now. It's not just about containing the power. It's about uniting it, embracing every part of who I am." "Well said," King Kai agreed with a grin. Gohan turned to his mentor, a smile of gratitude on his face. "Thank you, King Kai. I couldn't have done this without your guidance." King Kai chuckled, waving a hand dismissively. "Don't thank me yet. Remember, Gohan, you're just at the basic level. There's still a long way to go." The next day, Gohan stood silently at the edge of a serene lake within King Kai's retreat. The water stretched before him like a sheet of glass, perfectly still and mirroring the brilliant blue sky above. The reflection created an illusion of infinite space, a tranquil stage for his meditation. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply as the crisp, cool air filled his lungs and calmed his mind. To understand Ki at its core, he thought, letting the serenity of the moment wash over him, I must become one with everything around me. Lowering himself to the ground, Gohan crossed his legs and rested his hands on his knees. He let go of the physical world, his senses dulling as he dove deeper into his consciousness. The sounds of the wind and water faded until there was only silence. In his mind's eye, he visualized himself suspended in an endless void, surrounded by countless shimmering particles of energy. Each tiny speck seemed alive, pulsating with its own rhythm. These are fragments of Ki, Gohan realized, awe filling his thoughts. Pure elemental energy, the building blocks of everything. The sensation was unlike anything he had experienced before. He could feel the Ki flowing not just within himself, but all around him. The trees, the water, even the still air carried this energy. It wasn't chaotic or forceful. It was gentle, interconnected, and in perfect balance. So this is Ki on its most basic level, he murmured within his mind. It's not just power, it's harmony. Rather than trying to absorb the energy, Gohan focused on understanding its movement, its natural rhythm. He aligned his own Ki with this flow, allowing his energy to move as one with the world around him. Slowly, he felt his power becoming more refined, each particle of energy fitting together like pieces of a puzzle. Hours passed, then days, as Gohan practiced this new form of meditation. Each session brought him closer to mastering the intricacies of Ki. The more he understood, the more efficient his energy became. His aura began to change. It was no longer the fierce, blazing energy of his transformations. Instead, it was soft and radiant, pulsing gently with his heartbeat. It was calm yet powerful, a clear reflection of his growing balance. During one session, Gohan stood by the lake, his body enveloped in a faint red glow. He muttered, Kaioken times 30. The aura flickered, steady and controlled. There was no tension in his muscles, no strain on his body. It felt natural, remarkable, he said quietly. The strain is almost non-existent. He pushed further, testing the limits of his control. Kaioken times 40, times 50. Each level felt as stable as the last. His body remained calm, his energy flowing smoothly, without the usual resistance. Gohan maintained the Kaioken at times 50 for 30 minutes, then an hour. By the time he reached 2 hours, his breathing was steady, and his muscles were relaxed. At this rate, he noted, his voice steady, I can sustain the Kaioken far longer than I ever thought possible. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky with hues of orange and purple, King Kai approached Gohan by the lake. The tiny deity stood with his hands behind his back, his antennae twitching thoughtfully as he observed his pupil. You've been spending a lot of time meditating lately, King Kai remarked, his voice calm but curious. How are you feeling? Gohan opened his eyes slowly and turned to face King Kai. His expression was serene, his eyes filled with quiet confidence. Better than ever, he said with a gentle smile. I've learned so much about Ki. It feels like I've unlocked a completely new understanding. King Kai nodded, sensing the change in Gohan's energy. I can tell. Your energy feels different, more harmonious, like it's flowing in perfect sync. Gohan stretched his arms and took a deep breath. I've managed to extend my Kaioken endurance, he explained. I can sustain higher multipliers for hours now, and the strain is barely noticeable. King Kai's eyes widened in surprise. Hours? He repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. That's incredible, Gohan. Even your father struggled to hold high levels of Kaioken for extended periods. Gohan stood tall, his posture relaxed, but exuding strength. It feels like I'm just getting started. There's so much more to explore, so much potential still untapped. King Kai crossed his arms, his expression a mix of pride and concern. Just be careful, Gohan. Pushing your limits is good, but don't forget that even you have boundaries. Overdoing it could set you back. Gohan nodded, his tone reassuring. I'll be careful, King Kai. Thank you for your guidance and your concern. The two stood in silence for a moment, the calm waters of the lake reflecting the last rays of sunlight. Gohan clenched his fists lightly, feeling the controlled energy within him. He had come so far, yet he knew this was only the beginning of his journey. The next day, Gohan stood in the heart of King Kai's retreat, the calm serenity of the landscape, starkly contrasted by the raw, untamed energy radiating from his body. His training had reached an advanced stage, and he was ready to push further than ever before. Combining the Kaioken with his beast form was no small feat, but Gohan felt ready to face the challenge head-on. Taking a deep breath, he allowed the familiar crimson aura of the Kaioken to ignite around him. Its fiery energy clashed with the primal electric force of his beast form, creating a mesmerizing vortex of power. The ground trembled beneath him, cracks spidering outward, as if the very planet were struggling to bear his might. "Kaioken times 50! Gohan roared, his voice booming like thunder and echoing across the serene otherworld landscape. From a safe distance, King Kai observed the display with a mixture of awe and growing concern. Gohan's progress was undeniable, beyond anything King Kai could have imagined, but the sheer intensity of his power left the deity uneasy. "This is getting out of hand," King Kai muttered to himself, his antennae twitching nervously. He doesn't realize the danger he's putting himself in. Gohan's energy continued to surge, shaking the ground and causing nearby trees to sway violently. King Kai finally decided he couldn't stay silent any longer. As Gohan powered down, the red and blue energy dissipating into the air, King Kai approached him with a serious expression. "Gohan, we need to talk," King Kai said, his voice firm. Gohan turned to him, wiping sweat from his brow but wearing a calm, determined look. "What's wrong, King Kai?" King Kai took a deep breath, his tone heavy with gravity. "Your progress is astonishing, Gohan. Truly, it is. But I'm concerned about what you're doing. The knowledge you're using, the techniques you're pursuing, predates even the gods of destruction. This is ancient and forbidden for a reason." Gohan frowned, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean? Why is it forbidden?" King Kai adjusted his glasses, his expression troubled. "The scrolls you've been studying contain secrets that were never meant for mortals. The 101st level of Kaioken isn't just a technique, it's a force that even the deities feared to explore. Attempting it is tantamount to courting self-destruction." For a moment, Gohan was silent, absorbing King Kai's words. Then he spoke, his voice steady. "I understand the risks, but I've come too far to turn back now. I believe I can handle it." King Kai's face hardened. "Gohan, you're playing with forces beyond comprehension. If you lose control for even a moment, the backlash could obliterate your very existence. Not even the other world could protect you from that." Gohan's gaze didn't waver. "I appreciate your concern, King Kai, but I have to see this through. I can't give up." King Kai crossed his arms, his voice rising slightly. "As your mentor, I can't allow you to continue down this path. It's too dangerous, and I won't stand by and watch you destroy yourself." Gohan met his gaze with quiet resolve. "Then I'll prove to you that I can control it." Without waiting for King Kai's response, Gohan stepped back and began to power up once more. His aura erupted into life, the red of the Kaioken weaving seamlessly with the wild electric energy of his beast form. The ground trembled beneath him, the shockwaves rippling outward in waves. "Kaioken times 50, he declared, his voice carrying an unshakable confidence. The sheer force of his power sent a gust of wind rushing through the area, rustling the leaves of distant trees and sending ripples across the lake's surface. The ground cracked further, but Gohan's stance was steady, his control unflinching. "Gohan, stop this!" King Kai shouted, shielding his eyes from the blinding light of Gohan's combined aura. "You don't have to prove anything to me." But Gohan didn't stop. "I need you to see that I can handle this," he said, his voice calm despite the immense power radiating from him. He moved into a series of combat forms, his body flowing effortlessly through each motion. Every punch, every kick, and every stance was precise and deliberate, his control over the overwhelming energy absolute. King Kai watched, his mouth slightly agape. "He's maintaining perfect control," he muttered in astonishment. After several minutes, Gohan powered down. The fiery red and wild blue auras around him faded into nothingness, leaving him standing tall and steady. His breathing was even, and there was no sign of the instability that had plagued his earlier attempts. "See?" Gohan said, a small smile playing on his lips. He was slightly out of breath, but his voice was steady. "I can control it." King Kai stared at him for a moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft. I underestimated you, Gohan." Gohan's smile widened, though it remained humble. "I know you worry about me, King Kai, and I'm grateful for that, but I believe this is my path." King Kai sighed deeply, his shoulders relaxing as he let go of his earlier resistance. "Perhaps I've been too cautious. Your mastery over Ki is beyond anything I've ever seen, even among the greatest fighters. I couldn't have done it without your guidance," Gohan said, his tone sincere. King Kai allowed himself a small grin. "Well, I suppose I can't stop you, can I? Just promise me one thing, Gohan."
"What's that?"
Gohan asked. King Kai's grin faded slightly, replaced by a look of genuine concern. "Promise me you'll continue to be careful." "I promise," Gohan replied firmly. That night, Gohan sat cross-legged beneath the vast canopy of stars, the soft hum of the universe resonating around him. The day's intense training lingered in his muscles, but his mind was restless, turning over King Kai's warnings and his own unwavering resolve. "I hope King Kai understands," Gohan thought, gazing up at the endless expanse above. "I'm not doing this just for myself. I have to push beyond my limits for everyone I care about." A gentle breeze brushed against his skin, carrying with it the faint whispers of the otherworld's serene energy. The stars shimmered like distant, silent watchers, each one a testament to the enormity of existence. He closed his eyes, letting the night's calm seep into his thoughts. What lies beyond the 101st level, he wondered, his mind drifting. Is there a point where power and understanding become one? As he slipped deeper into meditation, a strange yet soothing sensation took hold of him. It was subtle, like a thread connecting him to something vast and unknowable. The air seemed lighter, the energy around him more palpable, as though the universe itself was reaching out. Could this be the next step? He mused, focusing intently on the feeling. He allowed it to guide him, surrendering his consciousness to the flow. The world around him dissolved, replaced by an endless expanse of radiant light. It was neither harsh nor blinding, but warm and infinite, stretching in every direction like a sea of serenity. "Welcome, Gohan," a voice echoed softly, serene and without origin. Gohan's eyes snapped open in the void. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady despite the strange surrounding. From the light, a figure began to emerge. It was neither fully formed nor undefined, its shape shifting like a reflection on rippling water. It felt familiar, yet alien, as though it were a part of him he'd long forgotten. "I am a manifestation of your inner self," the figure said, its tone calm and unwavering, "a reflection of your true potential." Gohan furrowed his brow, studying the figure. "My inner self? What does that mean?" The figure stepped closer, radiating a sense of profound wisdom. "You stand on the brink of a great breakthrough," it explained. "But to proceed, you must embrace a fundamental truth. True power comes from unity, not just within yourself, but with the universe." "Unity with the universe?" Gohan repeated, the words stirring something deep within him. "Yes," the figure continued with a faint nod. "You've been striving to harness power, to command it. But power isn't something to be owned or controlled. It is something to be shared, a flow that connects all things." Gohan's gaze softened as he considered the figure's words. "So, I need to become one with the energy around me, to move with it instead of against it." "Exactly," the figure said, a small, knowing smile gracing its ever-shifting features. "Embrace the flow of ki that binds all things, and you will find that the boundaries you perceive are merely illusions." As the figure's words settled into his heart, the vision began to dissolve, the endless expanse of light fading. Gohan felt himself returning to the physical world, but the clarity the figure imparted remained, etched into his very being. Opening his eyes, he looked at the stars with a renewed sense of purpose. "I think I understand now," he whispered. The next morning, Gohan sought out King Kai, finding the deity sipping tea on a small rock near his home. "King Kai, I had a revelation last night," Gohan began, his tone serious yet filled with excitement. King Kai looked up, his antennae twitching with interest. "Oh, this should be good. Let's hear it." Gohan sat down across from him, his voice steady. "I've realized that I've been going about this the wrong way. I've been trying to control and contain power as if it were something separate from me. But maybe I need to let it flow through me instead." King Kai set down his teacup, his eyebrows raising in intrigue. "Go on." "If I can align myself with the key of the universe," Gohan explained, "I won't be fighting against the energy. Instead, I'll be moving with it. That could allow me to reach new heights without the same risks of instability." King Kai stroked his chin, his expression thoughtful. "That's a profound insight, Gohan. It aligns with the oldest teachings of Ki, the ones even I rarely speak of. Power isn't just about dominance, it's about harmony." "Will you help me explore this?" Gohan asked, his earnestness shining through. King Kai smiled, nodding. "Of course, Gohan. Let's see where this path leads." Their new training regimen began immediately, shifting away from raw power and toward fluidity and connection. King Kai guided Gohan through movements inspired by the natural elements, each one emphasizing balance and flow. Gohan moved like water, adapting and bending. He steadied himself like the unyielding earth. His strikes became swift like the wind, and his presence burned fierce like fire. As he practiced, Gohan began to sense the subtle threads of energy that connected him to everything around him. He could feel the ki of the planet beneath his feet, the gentle hum of life in the plants, and even the unique energy radiating from King Kai himself. "Excellent, Gohan," King Kai encouraged, watching his pupil's progress with pride. "You're becoming more attuned every day." Gohan's movements grew smoother, his energy more stable than ever before. With each session, he felt a newfound sense of lightness and purpose, as though he were no longer shouldering the weight of his power, but moving in harmony with it. For the first time, Gohan felt like he wasn't chasing his limits, he was becoming one with them. One quiet afternoon, while immersed in his training, Gohan felt a spark of inspiration ripple through him. His newfound connection with Ki was profound, but he sensed there was still more to explore, more to unify. "Maybe I can combine this harmony with the Kaioken," he mused, his voice thoughtful yet resolute. Standing tall, he took a deep, steadying breath, letting the calm energy of the universe flow through him. Slowly, he activated the Kaioken, allowing the familiar red aura to shimmer softly around his body. Unlike before, there was no force, no struggle, only ease. "Kaioken times 50, he whispered. The energy rose smoothly, filling him with immense power, yet without the usual strain. His aura no longer felt separate from the world around him, but moved as part of it, blending seamlessly with the natural energies of King Kai's planet. "This feels different," Gohan noted, his voice tinged with awe. He began moving through his combat forms, his motions fluid and precise, each strike and dodge executed with flawless grace. There was no hesitation, no imbalance, only pure synchronization between his body and the ki flowing through him. From a distance, King Kai watched, his jaw slightly agape. "He's done it," he murmured. "He's found the balance." Gohan continued for hours, his movements tireless, his energy unwavering. When he finally powered down, the red glow of the Kaioken faded gently, leaving him standing tall and refreshed, rather than drained. "How do you feel?" King Kai asked, rushing toward him eagerly. "Incredible," Gohan replied, a wide, genuine smile spreading across his face. "I think I've truly connected with the ki of the universe." King Kai clapped his hands together, his excitement barely contained. "This is a monumental achievement, Gohan. Few beings have ever reached such a state." Gohan turned his gaze toward the horizon, his expression contemplative. "I wonder how far I can take this." King Kai placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "With this level of understanding, perhaps even the 101st level of Kaioken is within reach." Gohan nodded slowly, his resolve hardening. "One step at a time, but I believe it's possible now." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in vibrant shades of orange and purple, Gohan felt a deep sense of peace settle over him. For the first time in a long while, his path felt clear. "I finally found my way," he thought, his heart calm, not through sheer force, but through unity and understanding. The next morning, the golden light of the sun bathed King Kai's planet, casting long shadows across the tranquil landscape. The chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves provided a soothing backdrop, yet within Gohan, a storm brewed, a storm of purpose. "I've pushed my physical limits," Gohan thought, as he stood amidst the serenity. "But to reach the next level, I need to challenge myself in ways I've never considered." He recalled a lesson King Kai had once shared, one inspired by Earth's martial art. King Kai had explained that the greatest opponent one could face was oneself. How do you counter someone who's as strong as you, who knows your every move and how to counter it? King Kai had said. Humans call it shadowboxing, a way to battle your own boundaries. The idea resonated deeply with Gohan. If I can face a true reflection of my potential, I might finally surpass it. Closing his eyes, he focused intently, channeling his ki in a way he never had before. The air around him shimmered, pulsating with energy as he visualized his intent. Slowly, a figure began to materialize before him, taking shape with startling clarity. It was him, a perfect replica, yet its aura burned even brighter, fiercer. "Hello, Gohan," the shadow said with a smirk, its voice a mirror of his own, but layered with challenge. Gohan opened his eyes, facing the manifestation with calm determination. "So, this is what my power looks like, beyond my current limit." The shadow gave a small nod. "I'm everything you're striving to become. Ready to see if you can keep up?" Without hesitation, both assumed fighting stances, their energies crackling in the air. The atmosphere grew tense, charged with anticipation as their auras flared in unison. "Let's begin," Gohan declared, his voice firm. They launched at each other simultaneously, their fists colliding with such force that shockwaves rippled across the planet. The ground trembled beneath their feet, the sheer energy of their movements causing the air itself to hum. The shadow moved with incredible speed, its attacks precise and relentless. Gohan barely dodged a flurry of kicks, his mind racing to keep up. He's using Kaioken times 70, Gohan realized, blocking a powerful punch that sent him skidding back. I have to match him. The shadow grinned, its eyes gleaming. Come on, you can do better than that, it taunted, its voice dripping with challenge. Gritting his teeth, Gohan shouted, Kaioken times 70. His body erupted with energy, the red aura around him intensifying as his powers surged. The battle escalated, their movements blurring as they exchanged blow after blow. Neither gained the upper hand, each perfectly countering the other's attacks. The sheer intensity of the fight sent ripples through the landscape, the ground cracking under their feet with every impact. From a distance, King Kai watched, his expression a mix of awe and disbelief. He's fighting himself? He muttered. Incredible. The battle continued, each strike pushing Gohan to new heights as he fought to keep up with his shadow. The realization dawned on him. This wasn't just a battle of strength. It was a test of his resolve, his understanding, and his ability to unify his power with the world around him. The hours passed like a blur of fists, energy, and unrelenting willpower. Gohan's body screamed for rest, his muscles heavy and his breath ragged, but he refused to back down, his resolve burning brighter with every clash. I won't back down, he vowed through gritted teeth. The fiery determination in his voice seemed to echo across King Kai's small planet. Summoning what strength remained, Gohan pushed his power even further. His aura flared, blazing brighter and hotter, bathing the battlefield in a radiant glow. The Crimson Kaioken intertwined with the electric energy of his beast form, creating an intense fusion of raw strength and refined control. The shadow smirked, its expression gleaming with both pride and challenge. That's more like it, it shouted before lunging forward. Their next collision was cataclysmic. The force of their fists meeting sent shockwaves tearing through the ground, creating deep fissures beneath them. The air trembled as they exchanged blows at blinding speeds, their movements a blur of red and gold light. Then, with a decisive surge of energy, Gohan landed a powerful punch squarely on the shadow's chest. The impact sent the doppelganger skidding backward, carving a trail in the fractured earth. Panting heavily, Gohan stood firm, his chest heaving. A faint smile crept onto his face. I can feel it. I'm breaking through. The shadow straightened, brushing the dust from its form. Its playful demeanor faded into something more serious. You've grown, it admitted, but we're not done yet. The next morning, Gohan returned to the same field, his steps steady and his expression unyielding. The tranquil morning light cast long shadows across the ground, but he paid them no mind. He was ready. The shadow appeared as if from thin air, its aura still potent, but its presence now felt sharper. Ready for round 2? It asked, tilting its head with a smirk. More than ever, Gohan replied, his voice calm yet resolute. This time, however, the shadow's strategy shifted. Instead of rushing into battle, it stood still, its expression darkening as it began to speak. Do you really think you can surpass your father? It sneered, its tone laced with venom. You've always been in his shadow. The words struck like a sudden blow, catching Gohan off guard. He faltered, his fists lowering slightly as doubt crept into his mind. I know I can, he said, though his voice wavered. The shadow chuckled, pressing its advantage. Your doubts are holding you back. You're afraid of failure, afraid that no matter how far you push yourself, you'll never be enough. The words dug deep. For a moment, Gohan stood still, his aura flickering uncertainly. But as the silence stretched, something within him shifted. He thought about his struggles, his triumphs, and the moments where doubt had nearly consumed him. He realized that this was the final barrier, the fear he had to overcome. Maybe I have been doubting myself, Gohan admitted, his voice steadying, but not anymore. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his insecurities lift as he embraced both his strengths and weaknesses. I am who I am, and that's enough. The shadow watched as Gohan's aura steadied and grew brighter. Its smirk widened. Then let's push it further. Show me what you've got. Kaioken times 80, Gohan roared, his energy erupting like a volcano. His aura exploded outward in a brilliant fusion of red and gold, the ground trembling beneath his feet as his power surged to unimaginable heights. The energy coursing through him felt different this time, stronger, yet calmer, complete. He felt no resistance, no instability, only harmony. The shadow grinned. Now that's impressive. Without hesitation, they clashed again. This time, Gohan moved with unparalleled confidence. His strikes were precise, his movements fluid, and his energy perfectly balanced. Blow after blow, he matched the shadow's every move, their battle a dazzling storm of power and light. "You're no longer hindered," the shadow noted mid-combat, its voice tinged with approval. Gohan's expression was calm but resolute. "I've accepted who I am," he replied firmly. "All of me, my doubts, my strengths, my weaknesses, they're all part of what makes me strong." The shadow's smile softened as if satisfied. "Then prove it." With a final earth-shaking attack, the two collided in a brilliant flash of energy. The shockwave rippled outward, shaking the entire planet. When the light faded, the shadow stood still for a moment before beginning to dissolve, its form turning into particles of light. "Well done," it said softly, its voice filled with pride. "You've mastered not just your power, but yourself." The last remnants of the shadow faded into the air, leaving Gohan standing alone in the aftermath. But this time, he didn't feel alone. He felt whole. A sense of unity and purpose filled him, stronger than any power he had ever known. King Kai approached cautiously, his eyes wide with awe. "That was extraordinary, Gohan. You reached Kaioken times 80? Gohan turned to him, his serene smile carrying a quiet confidence. "Yes, and I understand now that true strength comes from more than just power. It comes from accepting every part of myself." King Kai nodded, placing a hand on Gohan's shoulder. "You've grown, Gohan. Not just in strength, but in spirit. That's the mark of a true warrior." "Thank you," Gohan said earnestly, "for everything." The two stood in silence for a moment, the soft breeze carrying away the last traces of the battle. Gohan turned his gaze toward the horizon, a renewed determination in his heart. "I'm getting closer to my goal," he thought, his mind already set on the challenges ahead. A few days had passed since Gohan's monumental battle with his shadow self. Now, his training continued relentlessly, each step taking him closer to the ultimate goal. The golden hues of the other world's eternal twilight bathed the tranquil landscape as Gohan sat atop a solitary cliff, the vast expanse of this mystical realm stretching endlessly before him. The echoes of his shadow battles still lingered in his mind. Those clashes had not only pushed his physical limits, but had also forced him to confront the deepest recesses of his soul and hidden truths that had shaped him. Sitting cross-legged, Gohan closed his eyes and let the stillness of the other world embrace him. The gentle wind carried faint melodic whispers, blending harmoniously with the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. His breathing slowed, his consciousness drifting inward as he reflected on the arduous journey that had brought him here and the cryptic teachings of the ancient scroll. To reach the pinnacle, the 101st level, I must relinquish everything, Gohan thought, his mind replaying the words from the scroll. Not just my power, but the very essence of my being. The scroll had revealed a terrifying truth. Achieving the 101st level required the complete release of all ki and life energy. It wasn't simply a transformation, it was a total dissolution of the self, a feat deemed impossible for mortals and feared even by the gods. Gohan now understood why this path had remained untouched by even the most powerful beings. But he was different, being already dead, he thought, his brow furrowing in contemplation. What do I have to lose? Maybe death isn't on a barrier, but a gateway. The idea sparked something within him, a newfound clarity and resolve. Slowly, he opened his eyes, the soft golden light of the other world reflecting in their determined glow. He stood, the air around him beginning to hum faintly as his ki stirred. At the base of the cliff, King Kai suddenly appeared, his antennae twitching as he sensed a dramatic shift in the atmosphere. He looked up to see Gohan standing on the precipice, the faint glow of his energy flickering in an unusual rhythm. "Gohan!" King Kai called out, his voice carrying an edge of alarm. "What are you doing up there?" Gohan turned, his face calm but resolute. "It's time, King Kai. I've reached the threshold. To move forward, I have to let go of everything." King Kai's eyes widened in horror. "What?" Gohan, no, that's far too dangerous. If you release all of your ki, you could, no, you will, erase yourself from existence. Gohan's lips curved into a gentle smile, his expression unwavering. "Trust me, King Kai. This is something I must do. I can feel it. This is the only way." Before King Kai could protest further, the glow around Gohan intensified. A brilliant light erupted from his body, illuminating the entire cliffside. The ground trembled violently beneath him, and the sky above swirled with cosmic energies, vibrant streaks of light tearing through the clouds. "Gohan, stop!" King Kai shouted, shielding his eyes from the overwhelming brilliance, but it was too late. Gohan's body began to dissolve into shimmering particles of light, his form ascending upward into the vastness of the other world. Suspended in an endless void, Gohan's consciousness floated freely, untethered to the constraints of life or death. He no longer felt the weight of his body, his senses, or even time itself. Around him swirled the raw elements of existence: fire, water, earth, air, and the intangible threads of space and time. Each element pulsed with its own rhythm, yet they all moved as one, a cosmic symphony that resonated deep within him. "This is the essence of everything," Gohan realized, his voice echoing in the stillness. The elemental key, the source of all creation. The enormity of what lay before him was staggering. He felt both infinitesimal and boundless, a single speck within the vastness of the universe, yet intimately connected to it all. Galaxies seemed to spin around him, their light casting intricate patterns across the void. Instead of fear, Gohan felt a profound sense of peace. He understood now. He wasn't meant to wield the energy of the universe as a separate force. He was a part of it, and it was a part of him. To rebuild myself, he thought, I must understand that I am a part of all things, and all things are a part of me. Closing his metaphorical eyes, Gohan drew upon everything he had learned, every moment of training and reflection. He extended his awareness, weaving the elemental energies around him with delicate precision. Threads of light and shadow intertwined, creating the framework for something new. Stars flared and dimmed in the distance as he molded his essence, crafting a form that could harmonize with the limitless energy surrounding him. The process was grueling. Waves of searing heat surged through him, followed by the chilling embrace of absolute void. The energies twisted and resisted, each thread requiring careful alignment to maintain balance. Time became meaningless. What felt like seconds stretched into eons, and eons passed in the blink of an eye. Yet, Gohan persisted, his resolve unshaken. "Almost there," he told himself, his voice a steady beacon amidst the chaos. Just a little more. Each movement, each decision, brought him closer to completion. Piece by piece, he reconstructed himself, not as a warrior bound by limitations, but as something greater, a being in perfect unity with the universe. As Gohan continued his transformation, echoes of voices from his past filled the void around him. His father Goku's laughter rang like a beacon of encouragement, and his mother Chi-Chi's gentle yet firm scolding reminded him of the values she instilled in him. The camaraderie of his friends, their unwavering support and belief in him, reverberated in his heart. "I carry their hopes and dreams within me," Gohan thought, his resolve solidifying like unbreakable steel. "I cannot fail." Drawing upon these memories, his spirit surged with newfound determination. The raw energies of creation swirled faster, converging into a singular point where his essence resided. Every memory, every lesson, and every triumph became threads in the tapestry of his being, woven together with the pure elemental key around him. Then it happened. A blinding surge of energy erupted, radiating outward across dimensions, bending space and time. The explosion of light was so intense that it momentarily illuminated the farthest corners of the other world. From the epicenter of the explosion, Gohan emerged anew. His transformation was awe-inspiring. His hair cascaded down to his waist, wild yet majestic, as black as the void of space. His eyes glowed with a fierce red hue, reflecting the fiery, untamed spirit of his beast form. Surrounding him was an aura of swirling crimson and gold, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. Lightning crackled and danced around him, reminiscent of the raw intensity of a Super Saiyan 2. His physique was lean and streamlined, akin to the divine form of a Super Saiyan god, yet every fiber of his being radiated unimaginable power. The air around him vibrated with his energy, each pulse reshaping the fabric of the other world itself. It was as if existence acknowledged his new form. This was Mystic Beast 101. Gohan took a deep breath, his chest rising and falling with a calm yet profound sense of mastery. The energies within him weren't chaotic. They flowed together like rivers joining to form an ocean. He could feel the balance, the unity of mortal and divine, coursing through every cell of his body. This is incredible," he whispered, his voice calm yet resonant. carrying a subtle reverberation that seemed to echo through the very air. Down below, King Kai, who had been shielding his eyes from the radiant display, slowly lowered his arms. As his vision adjusted, he gazed up at the figure standing at the center of the transformation. For a long moment, he was utterly speechless, overwhelmed by the sheer presence radiating from Gohan. "Gohan, you've done it," King Kai finally stammered, his voice trembling with awe. Gohan descended gently from the sky, his movements graceful and effortless. When his feet touched the ground, there was no sound, as though the universe itself welcomed his presence without resistance. He looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers experimentally as tiny arcs of energy danced across his skin. "I can feel everything," he said in amazement. His tone carried no arrogance, only wonder. The flow of ki in every corner of the universe, the heartbeat of worlds, the whispers of the stars themselves. King Kai cautiously approached, still grappling with the overwhelming sensation of Gohan's energy. "This power," he murmured, "it's unlike anything I've ever sensed before. Even the gods of destruction would pale in comparison to this." Gohan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've merged all my previous forms into one. There's no longer a need to transform. Every part of who I am has become one. I am complete." He glanced around, his heightened senses picking up on subtle changes in the environment. The barren patches of the landscape had begun to bloom with vibrant flowers, their petals glowing faintly with an ethereal light. The sky shimmered with auroras in shades of gold, violet, and green, as if celebrating his transformation. "Your very presence is altering the other world," King Kai observed, his tone equal parts admiration and concern. Gohan closed his eyes briefly, focusing inward. He willed his energy to calm, pulling it closer to himself to avoid affecting the environment further. The auroras dimmed slightly, though their beauty lingered. "I'll need to master this power," he said quietly. "It's more than I've ever handled before." Suddenly, a ripple spread through the fabric of reality itself, like a wave echoing across an infinite ocean. The tremor was subtle but unmistakable, resonating far beyond King Kai's domain. In distant realms, deities and celestial beings paused in their tasks, their attention drawn to the disturbance. Far above, in the highest planes of existence, the Grand Kai convened with other supreme entities. They stood in a grand hall, their forms shimmering with divine light, their expressions serious. "What is this disturbance?" one deity inquired, their voice carrying an air of authority. "A power surge," another replied, scanning the flow of ki across the realms. "It's originating from King Kai's domain." The gathered beings exchanged uneasy glances. "A mortal presence?" one asked, skeptically. "It's beyond mortal comprehension," another said, their voice tinged with awe. "Something has shifted." The Grand Kai stepped forward, his gaze distant, as if peering into the fabric of existence itself. "Could it be Gohan?" he pondered aloud, his voice filled with both curiosity and concern. Back on King Kai's planet, Gohan stood at the edge of the serene world, testing the depths of his newfound power. He gazed at the horizon, his mind sharp and focused, yet a flicker of something deeper, purpose, burned within his eyes. With a mere thought, he vanished, reappearing on the opposite side of the planet in an instant. The space between had warped, as if bending to his will. He marveled at the sensation, a slight smile gracing his lips. "Incredible," he murmured to himself. "I can traverse dimensions with ease now. It's like walking through an open door." Raising his hand toward the sky, he focused, and tiny orbs of light began to gather at his fingertips. Each sphere pulsed gently, humming with elemental energy. They shifted in color and intensity, blending into each other like living particles. "Energy manipulation at the elemental level," Gohan whispered, his voice tinged with awe. "It's as natural as breathing now." He closed his hand, and the orbs dissipated into the air, leaving a shimmering trail in their wake. Gohan tilted his head back, staring at the endless expanse of the other world's sky. He inhaled deeply, his expression turning resolute. "It's time," he said firmly, his voice carrying the weight of his decision. "I believe I'm ready." Turning to face King Kai, who had been watching from a distance, Gohan spoke with gratitude. "Thank you for everything, King Kai, but I'm afraid I must leave this place. My father needs my help." King Kai's eyes widened in confusion. He hurried toward Gohan, his hands raised in protest. "What are you talking about, Gohan? Leave this place? Have you forgotten that you're dead? There's no way for you to leave the other world, unless the Grand Kai himself grants permission." King Kai paused, his expression darkening as he added, "And since the incident with Kid Buu, we Kais have worked tirelessly, to ensure that no mortal can disrupt the balance of the other world again. Even with your strength, Gohan, this is impossible. But Gohan's gaze didn't waver. His calm demeanor unnerved King Kai, as if the young warrior already knew something the Kai didn't. "I haven't forgotten, King Kai," Gohan replied, his voice steady. "But there's something you didn't know. I was wished back to life years ago by Broly." "What?" King Kai gasped, his antennae twitching with shock. Gohan nodded solemnly. "I didn't tell you, because I feared you wouldn't help me train if you knew. But before I came here, I spoke with Purunga, the Namekian dragon. We made a contract, a binding agreement that would remain dormant until I invoked it with specific words." King Kai's confusion deepened. "A contract? What are you talking about, Gohan?" Gohan closed his eyes for a moment, drawing a deep breath. When he opened them again, they glowed with determination. "I'm sorry for tricking you, King Kai. Truly. But I need to go now. This is goodbye." He raised his hand to the sky and spoke clearly, his voice echoing through the other world. "Arise, great dragon. Fulfill your contract and take me to my father, now." Before King Kai could react, a blinding beam of light engulfed Gohan, enveloping him entirely. The energy surged with such intensity that the ground beneath Gohan cracked and the air vibrated with a deep hum. "No!" King Kai shouted, shielding his eyes. "What's happening?" In an instant, Gohan vanished, leaving only a faint shimmer of light where he once stood. King Kai stood frozen, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief. Far away in the past, on the planet Salada, another beam of light shot down from the heavens. It pierced the roof of a sacred chamber where Gohan's lifeless body had been preserved. Since the day Broly left the body in King Salada's care, the king had protected it fiercely, seeing it as an act of gratitude for Gohan's role in defeating Moro, the Planet Eater. The beam engulfed the chamber, filling it with radiant energy. The light was so bright, it forced the guards outside to avert their eyes. Then, as quickly as it had come, the beam faded, and with it, Gohan's body vanished. In the vastness between worlds, the two beams of light, one carrying Gohan's essence, and the other his physical body, converged. Their collision sent ripples of energy spiraling outward, intertwining his soul and body into one unified form. As the energies merged, Gohan's eyes fluttered open. He drew a sharp breath, his lungs filling with air for the first time in years. His heart beat powerfully in his chest, and his senses were overwhelmed by the vividness of the living world. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Gohan was alive. His eyes had opened up in the world of the living. And that's it for today's episode, guys. If you watched to the end, then that could be an indication that you enjoy the series. So please leave a like on the video. Thank you and take care.